documentary or in a video like this. Oh, wait a minute. This is actually lit by a small LED light. What? This, by the way, is the newest light from LumeCube, who's a sponsor for today's episode. And if you haven't heard of LumeCube, they make some pretty awesome portable lights for your cameras, drones, laptops, any device.
You're listening to Edge Radio TV. The views and opinions expressed in this program are that of the hosts or guests, and not the Edge Radio Network or its advertisers or affiliates.
E.R.A.S.E is an organization. It's a movement. We're talking about unity. We're talking about unity. So we're aimed to taking down the system of race by educating, enlightening, informing, and positively debating with those who have counterviews.
I'm Richard. Welcome to the show.
Hey.
This is going to be a good time today because we are going to unpack
the pandemic.
Man, lots of crazy stuff has taken place in the last year. You know, we began this ride March of 2020. So today we're just going to unpack all of this as we talk about unity. So it's going to be good.
Yep. Hey, I'm Carlin here, and I want to welcome to our show today. And we indeed going to unpack the pandemic. And, you know, last week we had this show where we talked about P-word solutions. We're actually kind of on that same tip again as we talk about, we're going to talk about the problem that this pandemic has been. We're going to talk about the players, the people who have been integral in determining how we actually view this thing and how we feel about where we're going. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the people. There have been some crazy people. I don't know if the pandemic made them crazy or if the pandemic just exposed their craziness, but we've had some crazy people, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we've seen people have to suffer through and how their lives have been changed. All right. So, but before we get to that, you know, in our first segment here, we want to cover some current event news. And one of the biggest current events, of course, is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Wow.
And boy, that's some, a lot of stuff going on there. And one of the things about that is that a lot of people don't really understand what's been going on with that Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So what we're going to do is we're going to profile. We're going to get a video here put up in a second where we can actually explain. We're going to let that video run. It's about a 3-minute clip. We're going to let that video run, and then we're going to talk about it so that everybody can get a clear understanding of what's going on, because I do think that this has much larger implications for the world. And so we want to be, you know, we are citizens of the world, and so we want to make sure that we're knowledgeable about this. And so Vince, let's go ahead and let's play that video and let's roll.
In the Middle East, at least 8 Israelis have been killed in rocket attacks from Hamas, while at least 200 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli airstrikes. As we watch the latest images of destruction of residential streets and homes in Gaza, many may be wondering how and why the situation has gotten to this point. A key place to start, the beginning of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. NBC News correspondent Raf Sanchez is here from Beirut to break down the crisis and the weeks that actually built up to this. Raf, walk us through the events that brought us to this point.
Eamon, as you said, let's start on April 13th at the start of Ramadan. Israeli police install metal barricades at Damascus Gate in Jerusalem's Old City. blocking a popular site for Palestinians to gather after a long day of fasting. That decision leads to confrontations between young Palestinians, Israeli police, and then later members of a right-wing Israeli extremist group who come to the scene. Meanwhile, in another neighborhood in occupied East Jerusalem, tensions are also rising. Israeli settlers have been trying for years to get dozens of Palestinians evicted from their homes in Sheikh Jarrah. Now, the settlers' legal case rests on an Israeli law that allows Israelis to take back formerly Jewish property in East Jerusalem that was lost during the war in 1948. Now, this law is widely seen as discriminatory because it only works in one direction. Palestinians have no right to reclaim property that they lost in West Jerusalem at the same time. So by May 7th, Jerusalem is boiling over the situation in Sheikh Jarrah. Young Palestinians throw stones at Israeli police, and Israeli police respond by storming the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam, on the last Friday of Ramadan. And those images are beamed around the world. Israeli riot police using stun grenades, rubber-coated steel rounds in and around that holy site. Now, by May 10th, things are at fever pitch. Israel's Supreme Court is due to hand down a final verdict on those evictions in Sheikh Jarrah, and tens of thousands of Israeli nationalists are due to parade through Muslim neighborhoods of Jerusalem to commemorate Israel's 1967 battlefield victory. At the last minute, Israel's government, sensing danger, takes some steps to try to diffuse tensions. That Supreme Court verdict is delayed, and that this nationalist march is rerouted away from Muslim areas, but it's too late. At 6 p.m. on May 10, Hamas fires its first rockets towards Jerusalem. Israel responds with airstrikes, and this current round of violence erupts. Amen.
All right, very important detail there in context. Raf Sanchez live in Beirut.
Wow, so that really gets us back in shape where we're going. Let me get my headphones up. I don't need those. All right, so we're back where man, a lot of good information in there. And so you see where this went. And, you know, one of the things that's amazing about that is how really similar, when you think about exactly the events that took place, are similar to some of the unrest that we've had here in the United States.
Yep.
You get the police involved and police involved with protesters. That clash then grows into something much bigger. And so I was kind of looking at how this is maybe an event that's happening around the world. I mean, and what does that mean for us? So it's pretty interesting to see the progress of the events happening there. And if you know anything about, you've been to Israel?
No, my daughter just got back though this last year, and we've been wanting to go so many different times. Always had a conflict, but we're going next year. So if we can get through this,
yeah, because that's really a big deal. Because here's the interesting, and just to kind of lay out as I'm thinking about this from our trip that we took a couple of years ago to Israel, the way that this thing is comprised is that in Jerusalem, they call it the Old City. In Jerusalem, it's strange because you probably have heard of the Wailing Wall.
Yes.
It's called the Western Wall. And this is where the Jews go and they pray before God, these Jews. Well, that Western Wall is actually the backside of the Muslim quarter. So you got the Jewish quarter, you got the Muslim quarter, you got the Christian quarter, and you got an Armenian quarter. They're all right there. So this wall, the Wailing Wall, is actually the backside, the wall of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Well, which is, of course, the Muslims' place. And that's the one that the police went into, and that's why they were so upset, because the Israeli police came in there and were clearing them out. And this is Ramadan, and some of those people hang out there overnight and things like that, and the police were clearing them out. So they're upset because it's like, you don't defile our place by coming into our holy sepulcher, our holy sanctuary. You come in here and do that. So they were upset about that already. And and then the police thing that we're talking about that's similar to America, the police come in. So these are youngsters who are throwing rocks and bottles, kind of like here in America, they're throwing rocks and bottles. Well, this has got the ire of Hamas, who are the actual terrorist guys who support the Palestinian/Muslim cause. And so Hamas said, all right, we got this. And that's what started them firing the rockets. And they start firing the rockets. Israel retaliates. And now it's just ramped up. And game on. And that's where we are.
We have, identifying the problem. So we have, the problem is it's also part of the solution too. So the people, the police, the protest, what did I leave out? Politics. Yeah. People, protest, police, politics. And it's the same ingredients for the mess that we're having over here today. But this problem goes so deep for millennia over there.
Yeah.
And people don't need to get it twisted. Somebody that is who reads the Bible every year, every single page, multiple times. You know, the real estate record in the Jewish law that's been passed down for thousands of years, it is in their core nature. It is in their law that you cannot sell your property. And if you do, after 50 years, it reverts back to that ownership. You cannot give away your rights to that property. And so they take it very seriously. I mean, it's listed multiple places on which tribe owns what property. And so, I mean, that's been in the record for a long time. I'm sure that there's people on the other side of that religious argument will say, well, that property was ours and we lost it in a battle, so it really still belongs to us. And, you know, I mean, that's the fight that's going to go on forever. But where's actual solutions that are going to come from? Well, Carlin, you know, you can't give the sponsor of this terrorist, Iran, $1 billion of cash in the middle of the night from not from Trump, but from the previous presidency. And I don't want to throw rocks at any president, but bottom line is Hamas has really just opened up a can of worms. And bottom line, Netanyahu said a long time ago, if you shoot rockets at us, we're going to shoot you back. You kill us, we are going to kill you back. The last week, 10 days, 3,500 rockets were fired into the Israeli settlements. People were killed, and so there's been retaliation. Been a lot of retaliation.
So let's look at Vince. Before we go to break, let's put up that graphic of Netanyahu, the prime minister. He's making it clear, and he's always been kind of straightforward in his talk about these issues, because he's not like in America where our presidents are very nice. Kind of when people do bad things, we're like, well, we need to stop them from doing that. That's not really been Netanyahu's tactic. Mm-hmm. His tactic is this. He said, you know, we're targeting a terrorist organization that is targeting our civilians and hiding behind their civilians, using them as human shields. We're doing everything we can to hit the terrorists themselves, their rockets, their rocket caches, and their arms, but we're not just going to let them get away with it.
No.
They're sending thousands of rockets on our cities with the specific purpose of murdering our civilians from these places. What would you do? And so he was saying that to some of the Western leaders, especially President Biden and others, saying, what are you going to do when people start firing on your cities and trying to kill your people? What would you do? And so he's really challenging them. And
hey, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. So bottom line with that whole thing was Netanyahu made it very clear, if you bomb us, we will bomb you back. And so the TV station, Associated Press building. Do you know Hamas is there, Al Jazeera is there, and Associated Press is there. So they're all connected together. And so when they bombed this building with the towers on it, hit it with 3 different bombs, completely destroyed it. And then the propaganda that came out was, oh, you're trying to destroy our news station. No, we told you to leave because...
Which, by the way, there were no casualties. So that's cool.
Yeah,
because they... So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, hey, so that's it. You know, we could cover this because this is really no pun intended, explosive situation. A lot of things going on, and it's going to have implications for what happens here in the United States as well. Right. And so we'll get into this later, but we're going to cover the pandemic. We're going to unpack that for the rest of the show today. So we're going to take a break right now, and we'll do that when we come back. Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
I'm trying not to lose my head.
Hey, this is the Talk About Unity show where I bring the talk.
And I bring the unity.
And together we talk about unity. Unity is what matters.
Come on.
And right now in our country, that's what we've got to do. So we do that here at Talk About Unity on the Edge Radio Network. Be with us every week.
It's going to be awesome. It always is. And I tell you what, the more we seek first to understand, then be understood, we make progress.
And we like to do that, and that's why everybody's on the brink. We love what we do at Edge Radio because everybody's on the edge. We bring them back from the edge, and we bring the unity. So we're just glad to Edge Radio Network every Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Talk about unity because here at Edge Radio Network, truth still matters.
Edge Radio TV is holding auditions for new show hosts. Are you a subject matter expert, professional, influencer, book author, thought leader, or business owner with an educational or motivational platform? Then we want to meet you. Send a link of some of your work to edgeradio20@gmail.com and be sure to put audition in the subject line. Join the Edge Radio TV family. Edge TV, because truth still matters.
So now it's time to unpack this pandemic. So Vince, go ahead and show this. This slide real quick.
Yeah, we unpacking the pandemic.
Yeah, we're gonna unpack this right now. And man, we got some good news. Hey, yes, it's good that we can actually have some really good news. And here's the good news. Yesterday, Texas recorded its first day of 0 deaths since March of 2020.
Texas, go Texas!
Which is since the pandemic began, this is the first day with 0 deaths.
I got my mask off.
Nevertheless, we seem to be just as confused now as we were in the beginning. Mask or no mask? Distance, no distance. You know what? There's problems, but we got solutions. We don't have it all figured out, but we have some good ideas, so we're going to be talking about a lot of that today.
And that's why we on our title slide there, you saw where it says why we still don't know what we don't know.
Right?
You know, I mean, really, and I would ask anybody, I would ask him, what do we really know more now than we knew in March of 2020? What do we know for sure that we didn't know then? I don't think there's anything. Because I'm not convinced that we know exactly how it's transmitted, because, you've heard people in the scientific arena on both sides of this issue, doctors on both sides of the issue. So we're not sure why some people get it and recover very well. I mean, I had a 94-year-old uncle who got it, who contracted it, and who would be in the dangerous population group. Sure. He got it 2 weeks, he was out of it. Good to go.
Yeah.
I've known 40-year-old people in great health who got it and died.
Right.
So I'm just saying, I don't think we really know more. We know things are happening, and we can keep the stats and say this many people died and this many people, we have this many cases, but we don't really have any answers.
So let's talk about some of what we do know, which is our own personal experience. My entire family, with the exception of my wife, we all had COVID. And my daughter, who has an immune disorder, she had it twice. So had a bone-crushing, skull-crushing headache for 3 days. I got on my medical protocol. I have a lot of people in the medical community. They jumped on us to help us. So we, got a steroid for my lungs, got a Z-Pack, which always works for pneumonia for me in the past, vitamin E, A, D, C, zinc, and took the Canada Dry Tonic Water with quinine, which is the base element for hydroxychloroquine. Stayed in bed, and so I felt great after those 3 days. Of course, I didn't lose my sense of smell. I got a heightened sense of smell and taste. Everything just was. But I was tired for 2 weeks, fully recovered. My entire family fully recovered. That was our experience. On the other hand, had a lot of the elderly people that did get sick and die. The family and friends, and even young people. Some of that stuff is unexplainable. But one thing I do know also is that isolation is an enemy of people's health. When you isolate somebody and nobody's there to care and nurture and encourage, that's a deadly combination, and a lot of people suffered greatly because of that.
So it would be interesting to see, though, with all the treatment, the treatment protocol that you use.
Yes.
If take someone, that would have been interesting to see someone who was really sick and maybe elderly in that population group that was in danger. Give them your protocol and see if they would have survived. Because that way we would know that protocol works across the board. Well, that's what I think we haven't found out.
Yeah, this wasn't just my protocol. We have doctors and nurses that are connected to our church. And so when they found out I was sick, of course, we let everybody know. We canceled our service. We did the responsible thing. But when they found out, they immediately engaged me. Well, I had a different doctor at that time. And I actually called him. I had an appointment to see him before I got COVID, and I said, hey, I had this thing with my lungs. When I get pneumonia almost every year, can I please get the Z-Pack? He goes, absolutely, I can get that for you. I go, oh, while we're at it, can I get the hydroxychloroquine? He goes, absolutely not. I don't believe in it. It's not any good. He says, if you get it, call me and I'll tell you what to do. He told me to not take my Z-Pack. Well, I immediately, Amy calls one of the nurses. You ignored
your doctor's recommendation?
Well, yeah. Amy talked to one of the nurses that was kind of watching us from a distance. Because, doctors and nurses don't want to overstep each other. But Amy tells the nurse friend that he said that wait and see. And if the symptoms increase, then we'll move a different way. But what we heard and what she said, the thing about COVID is that you jump on it quick. You don't wait for symptoms to materialize or get worse. And so we got on the front end of it for my entire family, and all of us were better in 3 weeks.
So I wonder if that would have worked for some of these 90-year-old people who got it, that they put on ventilators and they didn't use that same thing. They didn't give them the Z-Pack. They didn't give. That's what I'm saying. So that we could know then, and that's what I'm saying. So we would know that here's one thing that we know absolutely works, because we know it works for you.
Right.
But the question is, would it have worked for some of those people who died who had something else?
Okay, so the other thing is, I know there's one of two ways that I got COVID. It was at the small group where we're watching Monday Night Football, playing dominoes, eating nachos, right?
So nachos caused COVID?
No. Well, it was a contributor to COVID because we're playing dominoes.
Newsflash.
And the guy across the other side of the table, we found out that night that he got COVID, and so he's playing his dominoes. And then the next round, I'm playing the same dominoes he touched. And as I'm playing dominoes, I'm also eating at the same time. Yeah. So I ate nachos covered in COVID. Or when I went to the gym, you got to wear the mask. It's not this way anymore. You had to wear the mask in the gym. Well, what was I doing with my mask the entire time I'm in the gym? I'm adjusting it. I'm touching my mouth. I'm touching my face. I'm wiping off my sweat. And...
So you're making the point that there's a million different things that could have been.
And I'm not trying to hate on masks.
We just don't know.
But we just
and that goes to the content of our show today. Why we don't know why we still don't know what we don't know. So we've done all this. We've gone through 14 months of this stuff, and we're not really any the wiser, I don't think. But the positive thing, of course, is our numbers are down.
Yeah.
United States, the numbers are headed down.
No cases yesterday.
No cases yesterday.
First
so
time.
That's pretty cool. So let's go through our problems. We're going to analyze these problems. We're going to put these up, Vince, as we go, because the big one is that we got here are the things that we, like I said, we don't know. Lethality question: how lethal is this thing? Well, we really don't know. Who is prone to get it? You've had all kinds of populations. They were saying initially young kids can't get it, but now they're talking about trying to get a vaccine for kids. And you're like, but I thought they were the people who couldn't get it. Right. And so we don't know that. Where did it come from? We're still fighting over, was it created in a lab? Did it come from bats or whatever? We still not sure about that. We fight about that. How exactly is this thing transmitted? The latest from the CDC, someone said, oh, we were wrong. You can't get it off of surfaces. When we were spraying everything down and all this stuff, now they're saying you can't get it off surfaces. We're not sure about that. And then the mask controversy. People are saying the masks are ineffective because the size of the virus is so small that it can go through anything that you got there. So you got that issue. And then the vaccine. We got the issue with the vaccine. When President Biden did his address to Congress, everybody had been vaccinated, was past the period of vaccination 2 weeks after.
Okay.
Everybody had been vaccinated, but everybody was in there with masks on. We're like, so does the vaccine, what does it mean about the vaccine? It doesn't matter? You know, and we're gonna play a video later on where the one that you saw, where the teacher was yelling at the kid who was vaccinated, who didn't have on a mask. We'll talk about that later. We gotta talk about that later. You'll tell them about that when we get to it. I'm going through the problems. We're on the problems. We got one more. And then there's the thing with doctors, the science part of it. Everybody's saying the science. Well, you got doctors on extreme ends of the science spectrum saying different things. And so these are all the problems. We have all these things. We don't have any more solid answers than we had, in March of 2020. And so what's happening, Richard?
Well, we have to look at the data. What does the data say? I know you can cherry pick the data and make it say something that it doesn't say if you take it out of context. But if you look at the data in context, it tells an accurate story. But most people aren't brave enough.
But how do we do that? What's the story? How do we do it?
We don't have all the data. I don't have access to all the data, but we have the medical community that's looked at. Okay, so how effective have masks been? Okay, so we have. Man, I'm trying not to throw rocks. Okay, so we have Dr. Fauci who has come out and said this is the answer, and then 2 days later, no, that's not the answer. Oh, this is what I said. No, that's not what I said. Back and forth, and maybe there needs to be more of a collaboration in a panel of experts that have dealt with this from virology. Not just somebody who had a degree.
Well, yeah, but all these people disagree. I'm saying.
Well, that's true. But when you have a large group of experts in a field, it's okay to have disagreements. That's how you reason together and come up with some answers.
So would they then come together, and then would they put out some knowledge and say, here's what all of our in our disagreements we've come to these agreements. And who would do that? Because that's what I'm thinking our administration is there for. That's what our government is there for. They're to bring these people together.
Politics is running.
Well, you need a certain level of politics because it's a national crisis, and so you've got to bring together the scientific communities, and the all the other communities involved here. And you got to come to some resolution because you got businesses involved, you got schools, education involved, you got all these different areas. So who is supposed to resolve this for us so that we can all be in harmony on this?
Okay, so I like the fact that we have a federal government that has certain rights and rules, but then we have states' rights. And so what they've done in Florida, which has a large elderly population, Florida's really doing pretty good regarding this pandemic. Texas, as we just read, as we just told you guys, no cases, a couple of days ago?
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. And so we're obviously doing some things right in Texas. Are we doing everything right? No. But we need to look at what are the consistencies? What are some of the variables relating to why is this state or this state doing really good and why some other states are struggling? Maybe there is some validity to, my concern about touching the mask. You got the mask. Well, are you washing the mask all the time? Are you sterilizing your mask? Well, if you're touching, you're getting close to your mouth, you're getting it close to your eyes, then maybe you're exacerbating the problem, making yourself more susceptible because of the mask. Now, I'm not hating on masks. I'm just posing a question. So.
And when you look at some of the other things happening around the world, India right now is really suffering terribly. And they're talking about finding bodies. They're just because they've run out of kind of space, and the crematoriums are so backed up that the people are just taking them out beside the road and burning their relatives' bodies.
Not to be funny, but having a bonfire. They're just stacking these bodies up and just burn it. What a tragedy.
Okay. Hey, so that's a lot of talk about the problems. All right. So we've talked about the problems, and it's very easy to talk about the problems. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the players and how they're presenting this problem to us. And so we'll do that right after this break.
The Natural Nation Network is really about taking control of your health physically, spiritually, emotionally, even intellectually, because there's so much out there in misinformation. There's a lot of people now that are suffering from all sorts of diseases that they really wouldn't have to suffer for if they had better information. And that's what we're here to do. Provide information that can save lives.
The mind and the body are totally connected.
Health can be really serious, and you know, sometimes we just have to lighten it up a little bit while we're still providing substantive information.
And you know, my sort of mantra on the salsa dance floor is kind of similar. You know, I tell somebody, if you make a mistake twice, it becomes a move. Okay,
Tune into Natural Nation every Tuesday at 11 a.m.
And we're back. We're unpacking the pandemic today, and I tell you what, it gets more explosive the more we talk about it, you know, because our show is, you know, what we don't know that we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know at this point, and so we just keep getting more information. So Oscar, our director extraordinaire, you know, the leader of the Edge Radio Network, he just gave us some more information that we've been looking up about. There's some videos out on the internet identifying that magnets, people are putting magnets next to their injection site and they're sticking. And so that's something we'll be looking at after the show, because we want to talk about that some more.
I have not, just full disclosure, I have not, number one, haven't had the vaccine. Those that have had the vaccine, I have not checked them with the magnet. Maybe that's some trickery going on there. We have no idea.
Yeah, we don't know.
But there is videos out there, and if one person sees that and they begin to share that with friends, that really complicates the situation. And if it is true, not saying it is, but if it is true, can you imagine the hysteria and the new questions that are going to come up because of it? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and one thing that I've always learned to do is that when things like that come out, is that if you watch the faster the fact check people come out, the more credibility I give it. You know,
right.
When the fact check people try to get ahead for you, like for instance, before I even heard about this from Oscar, then the first search I go check and they start trying to refute something very early, and I go, man, you're putting on. And then often when you read the fact check, you know, says no, this is not true, and you read through and go, you just gave all the reasons why it is true, and then you said it's not. So the fact checks do a good job a lot of times. So a lot of controversy. But anyway, so we talked about the problems, a lot of issues out there. But let's talk about the players, because I think the players can either exacerbate the problem or they can help solve the problem. And I think we've got some players who are really not helping solve the problem. And so we're going to look at some of the things that some of the players that have been out there making statements about where we are in a pandemic. So go the first one, Richard. Who are we talking about here?
Well, let me just say this: the game hasn't changed; just the players have. In some instances, even the players have not changed. The
Dr. Fauci
and the players haven't changed. Okay, all right. Now I'm gonna be nice. So
Okay.
not this is in any reference to this person, but the former first lady had a tweet a couple of days ago, and this was a little bit I don't know, a little bit concerning to me. So do you want me to read it? You want to read it?
Yeah, you can read it.
Okay. So it's from Hillary Clinton, and she writes this. She says, "It's pretty simple. Get vaccinated, period. Get your life back." Come on now. My whole thing is that almost sounds like a threat. If you don't get vaccinated, you will not get your life back.
So does that mean that those who are not vaccinated are not living their lives? They don't have their lives?
Or is there a veiled threat that there's some kind of repercussions coming to you, or additional scrutiny?
And I would say for me, I've been doing the E.R.A.S.E race, been doing Edge Radio, our show here, whatever. Life hasn't really changed much for us. I mean, it's like I think I've got my life. I've been visiting with relatives.
Sure.
I have not contracted COVID over the time period. I've been doing what I thought was reasonable.
Right.
And so life has been really good. I mean, and so in reality, as President Biden was saying many months ago, he said if we do this stuff, then by July 4th, we can have a normal July 4th. Last July 4th, I was partying. I mean, I was barbecuing, doing my thing last July 4th.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know what y'all are waiting on. Life is passing us by. You better be living it now. And that's what I'm trying to do. All right. So that's one. Well, and that's one of the players. All right. And then let's go to the next one.
So we got this this tweet from the vice president. Here's what she said. Look what she says. Get vaccinated. You should have exclamation points on that, but not. It says, get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do. That's the answer. According to Vice President Kamala Harris, that's her answer. Get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do. And listen, in reference to that, there's already people saying that the mask isn't doing any good.
Well, the problem with that is and maybe this is because I'm a Marine, but that very authoritarian
tone,
dictatorial sound of, get vaccinated or wear a mask until you do. First of all, it was really cool when when you all said we recommend the mask, because of this or that. But when you start saying wear a mask or you can't do this, or wear a mask, or directing that you have to wear a mask to do this or that, you're getting kind of dictatorial to me, And hey, I'm doing everything. I don't want anybody to get COVID. And one of the things I do, if I go into an establishment, regardless of what the policy is, I look and see the people in the establishment. Like if I walk in and I see that everybody's masked up, I break out my mask and I put it on.
Sure.
If I go into a place and nobody's got a mask on, I keep my mask in my pocket. I don't put it on. So, because I'm not trying to get into a big fight over masking or unmasking.
That's a good answer to what we really need to do is really just prefer people, because we have no idea what some people are going through today. I didn't like, and I think maybe President Biden was trying to, I don't know if he was trying to make a joke or trying to just lighten up the situation, but one of the reporters who was contentious, and I have no idea what station he was, whether it was conservative or liberal news station, but basically he's standing up there outside getting ready to speak, and he has his mask off, puts his mask on, takes his mask off, and so the question was, President Biden, what message are you saying regarding taking your mask off and putting your mask on? What's going on with that? This is confusing. And he says, mind your own business. Oh, just kidding. I'm like, really? This is not the time. People are so triggered by the mask. We don't do that, But Dr. Fauci and others have come out and said, we don't really know. We don't know what we don't know. If this mask is really doing us any good, and to use these veiled threats of wear your mask or you're not going to be able to get your life back, get vaccinated or wear your mask. And so I'm going to just talk about the vaccine just real quick. Just a reminder to everyone, this is a fact. All the vaccines, every single one of them, none of them, let me say it again, none of them, one more time, None of these vaccines have gone through the FDA approval process. None of them are FDA approved. Not one. And there is none of these pharmaceutical companies, there is no legal, criminal, or civil remedy or damages that can be assessed against these pharmaceutical companies. So if they got battery acid in that, and all of a sudden everybody's brains go away, we turn into zombies. I know that's silly. That's not.
So they were emergency authorized. Is that what you're saying?
They're
not
emergency
approved.
authorized, and so the pharmaceutical companies cannot be held liable. To me, that is a scary thing. So we don't even know. And so they're saying there's some of the variants of COVID, because that's what viruses do. They mutate, they change. That the first rounds of vaccines are not even effective with these new strains that are coming out. So we're back to square A, and we still don't know what we don't know.
That's the theme of our show today on Talk About Unity. We don't know what we don't know, and there's still a lot of that going around. And so let's talk about one of the final players here, and we'll take a break after we go do that, our final break. But the CDC and Dr. Fauci are two really big players in this thing.
Yes.
They've been very pivotal from the very beginning. And the CDC and its director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, they've been subject to a lot of criticism from politicians and people in general over some statements and guidance that they've given, and they've had to walk back. And this has happened several times over the last year. Right. And so we're going to cite a couple of those examples right quick. But here's one. It's Walensky, the CDC director, on March 29th warned of impending doom because of recent increases in case numbers across the country. And then in an interview with MSNBC the same day, she raised eyebrows by suggesting that vaccinated people do not carry the virus. Okay, so you got these contradictory statements she's making. She says, we've got this spike in cases. She says, oh, but by the way, vaccinated people are not carrying the virus, so things are good. So a lot of people criticize their comments, saying it's too soon to know for certain what effect the vaccines may have on transmission. So that's the key about the vaccines. People are still not sure exactly how effective the vaccines are on stopping transmission. And so that's why I think some people are saying, well, we still wear the mask because you could still transmit. Then what is the deal in getting the vaccine?
It does not
so we don't. Sense. So that's just.
Carlin, I do want to touch something just real quick relating to vaccine, just in general. A lot of people that we're connected to in the community, in our church, that have children that suffer from autism, and when I say all of these families, no, without exception, all of these families have this one thing in common: their child did not experience their autism-like symptoms until after their kids were vaccinated. Every one of them are attributing their child with autism to childhood vaccinations. And I have not had a child that has been affected by childhood vaccines and things like that. And thank God none of my kids went through that. But it's a rough road to drive down with children, even grown children that have had complications because what they say is because of vaccines. Autism is a tough situation for people. So when we live in a community where this segment of the population is really saying vaccines have caused my family's harm, it doesn't matter what vaccine it is, they're really pushing back on that. And they're like, you're never going to see them get vaccines. So.
Okay, and here's another example of some of the contradictory information that we've got from some of the players. Once again, the CDC director, Ms. Rochelle Walensky, she relaxed the travel guidance for people who are fully vaccinated. But then she countered by saying, in light of the steady rise in case numbers and the fact that the majority of U.S. population is still unvaccinated, I would advocate against general travel overall. So they relaxed the standards for travel. Then she said, I would advocate against travel. So you get these conflicting messages. And so former Congressman yesterday, Jason Chaffetz, called for President Biden to fire Dr. Fauci, saying when there's something to be listened to, nobody would listen to him. When there's something to be saying, Dr. Fauci's kind of been all over the map.
Right.
But you got a lot of people who have praised the work of Dr. Fauci. And I was like, which work? He said this, then he said that,
Right.
And so we're just in a bad shape. And these are the players and these are the people who are giving us our view of the way things or the way we should perceive things related to the virus. And so it's a tough place to be.
So there's a lot of solutions that we can go into.
So, hey, that's the confusion. People, we should be clearing up the confusion. So that's what this is about. And so we come back, we're going to come back with our final portion of Unpacking the Pandemic, where we're going to talk about the people. That's you and me and how we are viewing this thing that's being presented to us. We'll do that right after this break.
Are you a small business owner concerned about the downturn in the economy? Top business leaders like Mattress Mac and Warren Buffett will tell you that now is the time to promote your business more than ever. People need your services. Your business needs an edge. Learn about special advertising packages for small businesses right here on Edge Radio. Find out more, give us a call at 281-744-0446. That's 281-744-0446. Edge, because truth still matters.
And we're back here, and hey, we're unpacking the pandemic today. You know, we still don't know what we don't know. We think we've made some progress. It's been 14 months, and we got a lot of issues, all right? So we started out by talking about the problems. Then we start talking about the players, and now in this segment, we're going to talk about the people as we wrap this up, how this has been affecting you and me. And I think one of the great examples was this, Richard sent me a video, and so that's where we're going to transition. So I'm going to let Richard set up this video and tell you about it, and then we'll roll it. Tell us about that video you sent to me.
Benny Johnson is a popular conservative person that is really just up to his neck deep in just COVID-related things and just politics in general. But he was just talking about the human side, how people are getting triggered and angry and attack each other. The whole premise of treat people how you want to be treated. And it shows this kid, I say kid, this young adult. He's probably 17 years old in high school, leaning up against the back wall in his classroom. And he's probably, it looks like the only kid in the classroom. Maybe he's in D Hall. I don't know. But he's leaning up against the wall without his mask on. And this teacher is so aggressive and just starts lambasting this kid and just calling him all kinds of names and how selfish and inconsiderate he is, and just really, we're talking a teacher just destroying this young man. So anyway, that's the video from Benny Johnson. You want to play this video, Vince?
All right, Game Changers, welcome back to another video here today. I know I've been covering a lot of TikTokers and their insane actions that they do on almost a daily basis, it seems. But today's video is actually not one of them, but it is still pretty darn insane.
I don't care if you're vaccinated, you little dink.
Okay.
I don't want to get sick and die.
Okay.
There's other people you can infect just because you're vaccinated. You know what? You're not a special person around here. You should hear about how everybody talks about you. You're a jerk.
Talk to me. I don't care how people
You're
talk
a
about
jerk.
me. Okay.
And you need to have respect for other people in your life.
I do.
You're not a big man on campus.
Oh, wow. All right. I mean, so what really causes that? I mean, this is a teacher, and I guess she's ignorant of the vaccination, or is she not ignorant and she still has this attitude? Why do we have people acting in this manner? What is that about?
She's like everybody else in society right now, just tired of the situation, wanting the situation to be over, frustrated, anxious, probably hasn't had the virus, worried about getting it. Not to attack this lady, but she doesn't look like she's in the best of health. You know, her from her anatomy, her size. I'm not picking. I'm just 60,000.
He didn't say she's fat. He just said she's not in the best of health. All right.
You know, she just seems like maybe she's anxious that if she got sick, she might have a hard time recovering. And this young man who really could care less, tired of the situation too, leaning up against a wall with his mask off. What really gets me is this is a teacher who's in a position of authority, who should have some things figured out regarding manners and decorum. And she just starts calling this kid all these names and just starts gossiping. You have no idea what all these kids are saying about you, and you're horrible and you're a jerk and you're all this. Let me just tell you, I've always been a protector of my wife and children. It doesn't matter who it is. If somebody did that to one of my children, I would show them what's a word? I would show them how the cow ate the cabbage. I would definitely have a conversation with Teacher Sally or whoever that is, because that's just so completely inappropriate. But I really think what it is, it's just a picture perfect example of what we're going through, not just in the educational community and school, but what's happening in our society. We're just getting angry, we're getting frustrated, and we're taking it out on people that really don't deserve it. And we're not treating people the way that we would want to be treated. So
civility factor, respect for all is what we need to be doing, and that's just simply not happening. Yeah, but the same thing about it is a lot of that is being fomented by the people who should be bringing us together, and that is some of our leadership,
right,
and people in these positions of authority. And I think that they've created the distrust factor, which has made it really high. So one of the last clips we're going to play is some people responding to their view of what's going on at the CDC and with Dr. Fauci. And so Vince, if you could play it's about less than a minute long of that last video clip, and we'll talk about that as we head out on the show.
Face masks. They're responsible for a 9,000% need to wear a mask anymore. Are gonna keep doing it anyway.
But even with the option to take off their masks, both indoors and outdoors, many who've been vaccinated say they're remaining cautious and keeping them on.
I think I will probably still wear a mask until I feel it's safe enough to not. Yeah, and it's not just to protect me, but to protect, like the city has said, protect the ones around us.
Last week they tell you everybody must wear a mask, and now 2 days later they're saying take off your mask. I don't trust any of it.
If you're not wearing your mask, I kind of want to stay away from you.
It's tough to explain to the kids as well how we can take our masks off, but they have to keep them on.
Until I get more information, until I get more directions, I'm going to keep the mask on.
Wow.
Yeah, so everybody's still trying to decide, how long do I keep my mask on? So much conflicting information, and so that's why we're really kind of in trouble. And so we need some solutions. We really need some people to come together, I think, and get people to begin dialoguing with each other in a more respectful manner, so that we can actually get some solutions.
I think it's a premise that I try to live by is pay attention, because success leaves clues. And so if we find communities that are thriving, not just surviving. Some communities aren't doing very well, but the ones that are doing well, let's go glean from them. What are some of the behaviors? What are some of the actions? What are some of the protocols that these communities are doing that's causing them to not have any cases? And then maybe replicating that across other populations. Maybe we'll find out that people that wear a mask have more of a tendency to touch their eyes and mouth than people that don't, and that might actually be exacerbating the problem. We might find that is absolutely opposite of what's going on. Just a lot of back and forth and backpedaling of this is what the experts say we need to do, and then 10 minutes later they said, oh no, we changed our mind regarding school policy, travel policy, restaurant policies, all these different things. But part of the answer, Carlin, is that we really need to move into the thought, the mindset of let's treat people the way we want to be treated. Wiping off the machines at the gym, to prefer the other person, whether it does anything or not, it's a sign of honor. It's a sign of respect and that you care for people. There's one thing that I wanted to also add. Is this in the Catholic Church, when you are not a member but you're there attending and it's time for communion, you can't take communion in that service, but you still want the blessing of the priest. Here's what the people do. They go up and they put their hands like that. Right? And they nod, and then they know, okay, you don't get it, but they still get to participate. I'm not saying this is what we need to do, but if somebody's in your church or somebody's in a gathering, there needs to be some kind of universal symbol that, hey, listen, I really need a little distance here without freaking out on people. What are some of the things that maybe we as a country can put together so that we can have like a universal symbol of, hey, whether it's a mask or not, provide some distance, because people may have some compromised health situations.
Okay, hey, we're out of time here today on Talk About Unity. Hey, go to ERASERACISm.com. Check out our blog post, because it says we are the vaccine. We said we, the people of America, if we begin to show people the right respect and love each other, then we are the cure. So do that, and we'll be with you next week on Talk About Unity at Edge Radio, where the truth still matters.